good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. We'll get started in a few minutes. If you'd like to introduce yourself, though, please go ahead and say hello in the chat. We'd love to know where you're joining from and what organization that you represent.
Hi, my name is Marco. I'm coming from the Development Center in Novo Mesto. We are glad to be here, and one of our companies is also active with you, and it is Reusable Technologies. So nice to meet you all, and have a nice day.
Thank you for being here. If anybody else wants to introduce themselves, feel free to add it in the chat. And we'll also be using the chat to collect questions. So please feel free to write down any questions that you have for us throughout the session, and we will respond at the end. Hi, Julia. So my name is Krista, and I manage the communications for our ClimAccelerator program. I'm also joined by my colleagues Morten and Alex, who help manage our programs in Europe. You'll hear from both of them a bit later. But before we get started, this video is being recorded, but it will only be shared upon request from those of you who are in the call today. So if you would like to not be seen, please take this time to turn off your camera. We have a few more people trickling in. Hello, everyone that has joined in the last few minutes. Good morning, good afternoon. I think we'll have some people trickle in throughout the session, but I think we can go ahead and get started. So if we could go maybe to the next slide. Thank you. Now, first, we'd like to thank you all for showing up today and for lending us some of your precious time. We hope to take the next half hour or so to give you some more information about EIT Climate-KIC, our accelerator program, the application process for becoming an organizer, and then we'll do a quick Q&A at the end, and hopefully wrap up a bit earlier so you can head off to lunch or wherever you need to be. And as I mentioned before, please feel free to use the chat to write down questions for us. We'll respond at the end of the session. And please don't be shy. If you would like to introduce yourself, the chat is there as well. Tell us where you're coming from and what organization that you represent. Okay, please continue. So as a reminder, we are holding this info session because we have launched an expression of interest for new and existing ClimAccelerator organizers in Europe. The application is available and online until July 14th. We'll share with you all the information you need to apply after the session. But before we get there, next slide, please. We'll take a few minutes to explain the bigger purpose of our accelerator program, and that deals directly with our mission. So that's Climate-KIC's mission. Can you go to the next slide? Which is to harness systems innovation globally to transform whole places and industry value chains by 2030. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, how we see it is in order to achieve the radical transformative change to fight climate change, we must engage with innovation differently. So in this context of uncertainty and rapid change, what we really need is a framework for generating the options and different pathways for the transformation of whole systems. And that includes a methodology for shaping, testing, and identifying different combinations of interventions and what we would say call leverage points that harness the many forces of systems to accelerate toward net zero in whole places and also industries. Next slide. But how do we do it at the scale and the speed needed to address climate change? So in partnership with others, like yourselves, we forge the tools, connect solutions, mobilize funding, and build the skills and capacities needed to provoke a shift in mindsets. So our approach is to co-develop an understanding of the local system with challenge owners and orchestrate a connected portfolio of innovations that will act on different parts of the system. And this is quite unique in the sense that we bring together stakeholders from the private sector, from the public sector, but also cities, regions, national governments, policymakers, industry, research institutions, also innovation hubs, probably like yourselves, incubators and accelerators, in order to create our maximum impact possible. Next slide. And this approach has proved to be quite successful. As you can see here, this is data collected over the past 5 years from EIT Climate-KIC. Climate-KIC was one of the first knowledge and innovation communities, that's the KIC part, established by the European Institute of Technology, European Institute of Innovation and Technology, excuse me, that's EIT, in 2010. And since then, we have been trial and erroring this systems innovation approach. And so with that, I will hand it over to Morten to tell you more specifically about what we do in climate entrepreneurship and our ClimAccelerator program.
Thank you very much, Krista. And if we can move to the next slide, we will show a little bit of what we did last year, just to give you a brief introduction to ClimAccelerator.
What the world needs now is innovation like we've never seen before. And we need it fast. I mean, way fast. This is a race against time, one without a finish line or the promise of a victory lap. The road ahead remains unpaved and unpredictable. But one thing is certain, we must kick it into high gear for humanity's sake. Let's start it up. Over the past 10 years, EIT Climate-KIC's Accelerator program has been Europe's engine for climate solutions. Now it's time to push the limits with the world's premier program for clean tech startups, ClimAccelerator. Introducing a global platform where entrepreneurs, partners, local governments, and industry experts join forces to innovate, catalyze, and scale the power of climate solutions. We are fast-tracking innovation, turning clean tech ventures into scalable businesses, and harnessing the power of human ingenuity to drive rapid impact and unlock a net zero resilient future for all. Electric airplanes, edible packaging, meat alternatives. Over 500 products and services are being brought to market at full speed with the support of ClimAccelerator. And things are just revving up. The fast lane to destination 1.5 degrees starts here, and we're ensuring a rapid transition to zero carbon technologies at every turn. It's time to unleash the world's innovation potential and scale towards true industry transformation. The countdown to a climate-positive new normal starts in
3, 2, 1.
Join us for the ride.
Thank you very much. Yeah, difficult to speak after such an impressive video. We are within the ClimAccelerator. We are working together with partner organizations where we run both theme-based and place-based climate accelerators. This we've done for more than 10 years, and we have by this both being able to provide professional resources, know-how, but also the network, and maybe most important, the funding needed for actually being successful in the scaling of the climate solutions. If we look across the last year, we accelerated more than 300 startups, and yeah, as you can see, total more than 2,100. Globally, more than 40 programs delivered worldwide. Next slide. So this is the way that we describe the innovation support system, where we have the entrepreneurship, we have the ideation. Maybe some of you have heard about the climate fund. If we move into where we are supporting with our operational system and working together with organizations like you, within the incubation, acceleration, and later stage, we have the climate launchpad, the climate accelerator that we are focusing on today. Then we are, by this, also be able to create a pipeline for investors that then either scales with the climate safe that we will touch upon a little bit later. And then we have also, from 2023, a 1.5 funds that are very keen on investing into the most innovative climate positive startups. Next slide. How do we scale our impact? We do that by, of course, supporting the entrepreneurship. We do that by different areas. So, of course, the ideation is important, but especially the business development, working together both in networks with financing. We have a large network of mentors, and then we are implementing what we call the climate impact measurement. So we want to make sure that the startups, they have a climate positive impact. We deliver that through our different parts in the networks, and that can actually be quite vast and with a lot of different spear points, I would say. So we work with city officials, we work with universities, NGOs, SMEs, and others, but we also are then focusing on the funding that always becomes very important. And here we have also a large range of organizations. So that can be, of course, governments and large corporations that are very keen on supporting innovative startups. Next slide. So in the beginning of this year, you could see that our the way that where we are working with the Climate Accelerator around the world, and we want to scale that even further. So even as you can see, Europe is not completely covered. We want that to be fully covered. And what we want to make sure is as well that we are doing this together. So we are scaling together. This is not just us, but this is us and you together. Next slide. So a typical entrepreneurship support organization, that can be existing accelerators that have experience in accelerating startup, but maybe need support, both in terms of the climate, but other areas. The incubators already working have a physical presence, venture builders, and then of course hubs, so co-working spaces that are very in clean contact with the local ecosystem. In this specifically expression of interest, we are focusing on Europe, the Horizon Europe, and associating countries. There's been established 3 different areas, just put it very simple in a man-speaking term. How do we make things? Circular economy, regenerating solutions, not just recycling, but regenerating. How we eat, the eco-food, the agri-food system, making sure that that's sustainable. How we live, the cities, but also outside the cities, and creating that sustainable for reaching a net zero cities impact in 2030. All these areas, they have been established based on the very huge demand we see within our ecosystem, that are desperately looking for solutions that can help creating a better future, not just tomorrow, but as soon as possible. Next slide. So together with you, we are able to provide quite a lot of different areas in order to support. So as mentioned, and also present a little bit with the video, we have the branding. We are able to provide you and support you with our global recognized brand, but also being there all the journey together to make sure that the branding is correctly implemented. Tools, both in terms of project management tools, coaching, our network in different areas. Impact, I was mentioning the climate impact tools in order to assess, also validate the potential business, but the climate impact for the startups. The community, not just working alone, but working together with all the different ESOs that have the same focus and same interest as you. We connect with the local agents, but also partners that can then also help the global reach and making sure that the local ecosystem is then also taken globally. And then the team, the Climate Accelerator team, we are here to make sure that we work together in the best way in order to make sure that your program is successful. Next slide. So what does it take? It's very individually, I would say we put down a few things here. The branding, of course, making sure that use of the DNA of the Climate Accelerator. Sharing is caring as we see it. So make sure that you're not just working on yourself, but also working across the community and sharing the most important data from the startups. And maybe most of all, the engagement, like making sure that we are able to take all the steps in order to make sure that we get diligent, climate positive startups that are able to scale for a better world. Next slide. So a few faces, maybe I should have been in the other slide, last in this page, but starting on the other side, Sebastian Bustamante that joined the team this month, focusing on the entrepreneurship program. Krista that presented before on the comms. Mido that is working with the climate safe and making sure that the right finance and investment into the startups. Alexandros will be presenting immediately after me concerning the criteria and engage in the European Climate Accelerator part. Wallace focusing on the gender and making sure that we have an equal gender mainstreaming within the programs. Christian focusing mainly on the global south and also our operational system, making sure that that's continues to develop. And Jasmina, that is the climate impact advisor, focusing on that we have the right tools, are able to provide the methodologies to you for the climate impact. Next slide, thank you. And I will pass the word to Alexandros. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Morten, and welcome everyone also like from my side. Together, yeah, we'll talk a bit more about, the most practical stuff and the technical stuff about the application and the procedure, how to apply, and what you should take into account before you actually submit the application. Yeah, starting with it's the most important thing is that we would like to work with you. We think it's like a really exciting opportunity, not only for us but with you, because we have indicated there is a lot of interest in Europe that many partners want to collaborate with us. So this is your opportunity. As my colleague said, we're looking for issues that they are from the member states of the Europe, and of course that countries associated. But of course, if you are located in other areas such as Switzerland, which unfortunately is not eligible, please reach out to us so we can discuss further opportunities and how we can collaborate. This expression of interest call is available, is open until the 14th of July. And of course, we will share the call document for you, which we will explain, and we have like more details. We'll share it also here in the chat. And of course, we can find it in the PDF slides that we will share with you afterwards. The most important thing is that you have like to read it carefully. And if you have like any questions, please like shoot us, ask us before rather than after you apply. So since we want like to, since we're working and closely with our partners, we want like to make sure about the quality that we deliver, and we want to make sure that we are working with the right partners. For these reasons, we came up with and we identified like 4 evaluation criteria, which is like the excellence, impact, uniqueness, and of course you have like to be aligned with our portfolio strategy. You can find the link, as I said earlier, in the PDF, so you can read more about it. The threshold is like 3, and the base is like 3, and then maximum score is up to 6. We're trying like to be flexible. Of course, we are not strict with that, but we want like to make sure that at every point that we are working with the right organizations, that they have the experience, and of course the will and the networking like to deliver what we're trying to. Next, please. Yeah, this is also like important. It's like the voluntary revenue share. As we're trying and we're closely working and supporting our partners in order to create a sustainable and of course efficient program, we're allocating time, resourcing, and colleagues which can help you with the fundraising part, and of course, whenever it's possible, to secure also grants for the startups. For this specific reason, as we also like want our operating system up and running, and of course to collaborate further in the future, we have this voluntary revenue share. As you can see, the figures, it's not that much. It's like most of the cases, it's like less than 10% of the lowest threshold in the categories. But of course, we understand it's like a voluntary and based in, of course, it's different from partner to partner. But we would like to say to you that if you can identify it and you have this opportunity, please also include it in the application, because we'll be taking also like into account. So regarding the next steps, there are 5 steps like in total. The first one is like for you to submit the application, write everything in detail. You can also, in order to implement like to complement like with that, there is also a PDF available in the welcome package on Notion page, where you can find like all the details about the goal, like the next steps, the evaluation criteria, and everything that my colleagues already like shared with you, where you can also see the questions and prepare before you submit the application. Of course, there you can also find the evaluation criteria that we talked about earlier. The second one is there will be a comprehensive feedback from our side. We know that it's like July and many people already are on their vacation, but we have secured and said that already like 2 people in our organization will be working in July, and will make sure that you will receive the feedback. In case, of course, it is positive, we'll have like the introduction call with you, because we want like to meet you and get like to know you better. After that, we have like the memorandum of understanding, which will identify the terms of how we're working and how we deliver the program. The 5th one is like the onboarding, which will give you access to all of our material, tools, and everything that Morten said earlier. Of course, this regarding like the next steps, you can also find them in the welcome package on Notion, as I said earlier. The deadline, again, is the 14th of July, and it won't take you more than 15 minutes. Of course, in case that you prepare the question before. Of course, for a round and complete application, please upload also like your pitch via Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, Dropbox, or any other platform that you think that you are also like working in your organization. But please make sure that we have access in it. So regarding afterward and after like this presentation, we are happy like to answer like all of your questions that you might have. You might also write it in chat or send us like via email. But following this session, we'll receive three things. One, it's the expression of interest, the call document, the one that we said that it includes everything and every link to the application, the link to the application itself, so you can read the questions like beforehand, and of course, a PDF covering these slides that me and my colleagues like presented here today. So thank you so much for attending one, and if you have like any questions, please write them in the chat, and we are happy to answer it. The official email that you can write to us, it's the climate@climatekic.org, and we are happy to answer them for you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Well, I think we wrapped up early, so if anyone has questions, feel free to stay on the line. If not,
I actually have a question. Is this some kind of a draft agreement afterwards that we could look at? Is it maybe in this file with the call, or because I haven't found any information on it, like on the practical side, how it looks like after submitting the application and hopefully being accepted to cooperate?
you're asking who will be contacting you? Which email address?
No. I'm asking if it's if you guys have some kind of agreement between yourself and
Yes.
yeah. And if there is a draft that we could look at in the documents as well before submitting the application.
Sure. Yes, we have our organizers sign MOUs. Morten, do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, so if you have gotten access to our welcoming page, there you can find all the information. There's also the draft agreements. We call an MOU that you can look into, and it's rather straightforward without any big major issues. We have not seen any issues in the past, so it should be rather straightforward. And of course, as soon as we have run through the procedure Alexander's explained, then the MOU will be signed by both parties.
Okay, right. Thank you. And if you guys could drop the link to your main website in the chat, I'll be very grateful, because I actually came from LinkedIn here, and I couldn't find the right website. So it would be lots of help. Thank you.
Sure, I'll do that now. Julia had a question about working as an organizer. On the slides, it was mentioned that there's a list an organizer uses to select startups in order to support them. Could you please elaborate further on this list? Morten, would you like to go into a little more detail on the startup selection?
Yes, we have available within what we call the operational system, the different suggested criteria of how to select the right startups. And if I understand the question correct, then it's in terms of also the different organizers that we are working with. If that's correct, then we are actually quite flexible in terms of the organizations that we are working with. But it is important for us that we have organizers that are very engaging in the process. And then for the selection of the startups, we are also there to support you in case that you need a jury member that can help you select the right startups. Was that answer to the question?
I think so. And we'll be sure to include all these links in a follow-up email. But if you have any other burning questions, please pop them in the chat or feel free to speak now. You can always also contact us at the email ClimAccelerator@climatekic.org. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up then. People are hungry for lunch. Well, thank you everybody for joining. And if any questions come up later on that you'd like to ask, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for taking the time. And we hope to receive your application. The deadline again is July 14th. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.